The Keystone XL pipeline is dead. Long live the not having it, thankfully, because it probably would have ended up being a massive environmental and cultural disaster. It is actually dead though. Is that amazing? Good news, good environmental news, Dan. The pipeline is not gonna happen. It was gonna be nearly 1,200 miles long and would have carried 800,000 barrels a day of petroleum from Canada to the Gulf Coast. Now, after environmental activists spent literally years, much of it we covered here, making the case to President Barack Obama that approval of the pipeline would be a devastating blow to his efforts to fight climate change, back in 2015, he announced that his administration would reject its construction permit. Now there was wrinkles obviously with Donald Trump along the way, but earlier this year, on the day he was inaugurated, Mr. Biden, and I included this so that we can have some discussion about it later, who has vowed to make tackling climate change a centerpiece of his administration, rescinded the construction permit for the pipeline, which developers had sought to build for over a decade. That same day, TC Energy, the company behind the project, said it was suspending work on the line. So we have some reactions to this, but really fast, Dan, let's acknowledge it is good that he has helped to finalize the death of this pipeline. It is interesting, though, to continue to talk about how fighting climate change is a centerpiece of his administration. I don't know that shutting down this pipeline necessarily warrants that as a continued description of the Biden administration.
Yeah, I'll really fast the Biden administration. I'll definitely say that it feels like one of those things where it is a thing that Joe Biden can point to in the future when he does something that is less climate friendly, where he can say, hey, look, I did this one thing, so on balance, it's all right. Come on, man, I actually have been good for climate justice. I'll shut down the Keystone pipeline. I stood out there with my boots myself that one time. I was there myself, Jack. Like he's gonna do this whole like bit where he's going to try to seem like he's tough on the climate on a couple of things, but if I'm making sort of an early judgment on Joe Biden right now, he's gonna be one of those politicians who is on climate. I hesitate to say this, but I think he's going to still be beholden to a lot of the major industries that have kept the Democratic Party from making more decisive movement on climate in the past 10 years since Al Gore was making documentaries about this. But really fast, I do want to say that the Keystone XL pipeline, like closing and being done, is thanks to the work of Indigenous folks who were there basically defending their land. And these are people who, like, unfortunately, our political system, we just so thoroughly underrepresent a lot of communities, but especially Indigenous communities, when a lot of the machinations of our society, as we're like industrializing more heavily, directly result in poisoning their water supplies, the limited water supplies they already have, because they aren't getting any resources, because it's so hard for them to get representation. So this should be a really like great moment. I hope that gives hope to a lot of folks out there who may be like disillusioned with the power of movements and people organizing together and being strong as possible. Because like if some of the most marginalized people in American and Canadian society can possibly like make some effort to stand strong against major titans of industry like this, then there is some hope after there. And I'll get whatever hope I can from the damage report. Honestly, we've done great stories all the time, so for sure.
That's why we're trying to focus on it. It's positive, and yeah, it was years of work, difficult work. We showed yesterday with the Alabama coal miners strike how activists are treated during these actions. So great work. A reminder that while progress is rare and slow, this is the only way that you actually get it. And yeah, it's easy to become apathetic or disillusioned. I am disillusioned right now. Also, there's this weird backlash to organizing and activism that I've seen brewing online that seeks to elevate fairly explicitly. Like, no, politics is really about watching shows like the Damage Report and Twitter, which is great if that's how you make your money, but that's not actually how progress happens. It should be a motivation to get out there and actually do stuff. No, organizing, actually getting out there, getting candidates elected, pushing for the issues you care about, that's how you get it done. And so let's tie it to another issue that we've been talking about recently, which is, of course, Enbridge Line 3, another pipeline that's being protested right now. Activists are seeing the termination of Keystone XL as maybe a precedent that President Biden can be pushed on this. You have, let's see, Kendall Mackey, who's a campaign manager for 350.org, we've had representatives from 350 a few times, saying this victory puts polluters and their financiers on notice. Terminate your fossil fuel projects now, or a relentless mass movement will stop them for you. And I really hope that that is true. I will say though, and this really goes to what Dan was saying about him being beholden to these interests, it is a little bit easier to sort of like just hold the pillow down on Keystone XL for a couple more seconds when it was already there than to creep into the room with the pillow. 100%. I don't know why I went with that metaphor, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah. I'm just gonna let that sit. Let's move on.
Anyway, okay, so I do want to do a quick fact check though, because Keystone XL is dead, but sometimes there's zombie misinformation around projects like this. So you're gonna get a bit of that with Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming, who said, President Biden killed the Keystone XL pipeline, and with it, thousands of good-paying American jobs. On Inauguration Day, the president signed an executive order that ended pipeline construction and handed 1,000 workers pink slips. Now, 10 times that number of jobs will never be created. So, on Inauguration Day, kill 1,000 jobs, 10,000 more jobs would have been coming. All of this, despite the fact that, like, it's been fairly clear that the pipeline wasn't going to continue being constructed for years. I don't know why. Would they just have the workers waiting in the wings? But anyway, you'll be shocked to find out none of that's actually true. The State Department forecasted that no more than 50 jobs, some of which could be located in Canada, would be required to maintain the pipeline, and only 35 of them would be permanent. 15 would be temporary contractors. I believe years ago, I think we compared it to the average workforce of, say, an Arby's. Yes, Biden has killed one Arby's worth of pipeline maintenance workers, and that's sad. I like Arby's, but it's not thousands of jobs. That's not actually what happened. And when we think about the environmental damage that could have been done, let alone the fact that they crossed lands that they shouldn't be crossing and all that, yeah, Biden did a good thing. It's not necessarily the hardest thing to have done, but it's a good thing. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.